points. This is SRN News.
Welcome to Champions for Life, the radio ministry of First Choice Pregnancy Services here in Las Vegas. I'm Deborah, the Executive Director of First Choice.
And I'm Ken.
And we are Champions for Life.
Hey, welcome, folks, to Champions for Life. I'm your host, Ken Wilson. Deborah, unfortunately, is not with us today, which is always dangerous, right? But to temper me and to keep an eye on me is my lovely daughter, Adele. Hi, Adele.
Hello.
Hey, yes, indeed. My daughter, Adele, is a student of an unnamed high school here in Las Vegas, and just so happy. Ninth grade, we're a high schooler now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
And so dealing with school, making her way through it, liking it.
Yeah, I am liking it pretty well. It's just has some bumps here and there.
Bumps here and there. Welcome to high school, So anyway, folks, I'm so delighted to be in the studio with you today. I want to acknowledge before we go much further, one of our great sponsors that make this portion of the broadcast possible, such as who did we just go see?
Dr. Kelly.
Dr. Ray Kelly of Kelly Chiropractic. In fact, we were just there. In fact, both of us were visiting there to get a little adjustment and two different things. My daughter has her little thing, and I got my own little thing. And but Dr. Ray Kelly, listen, he's been doing chiropractic care for decades, and this gentleman is very, very learned. If you have, it doesn't matter what you're suffering from, whether it's maybe you got a crick in your neck or in your back or you're maladjusted but he even treats things such as, for example, if you are suffering from allergies, he has something called acutherapy. Now, he's not going to poke you with anything, but he uses the pressure points from acupressure to try and alleviate some of the discomfort that you suffer from allergies. He even has that. Plus, if you've been, slipped and fell, or maybe you've been in a car wreck or something, and you're seriously misaligned, or maybe you got whiplash or something, you definitely want to see him for that. Dr. Ray Kelly of Kelly Chiropractic, 1405 South Arville, right in the heart of Las Vegas. And here's his telephone number, 870-9200, 702-870-9200, Kelly Chiropractic. And if you mention the Champions for Life radio broadcast and podcast, although we're doing it live, actually, up there on Facebook, all our folks on Facebook. If you mention the Champions for Life broadcast, you'll get 10% off your part of your therapy. He has a laser therapy technique for those of you who have, like me, had spasming muscle issues, right? So there's a therapy that has a laser therapy that actually relaxes some of these muscles that can sometimes pull us and make us unaligned. I'm not a doctor, so listen, give Doc Kelly a call. His number is 702-870-9200, one of the proud sponsors of the Champions for Life radio broadcast, and the podcast, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So pleased to be in studio with you today. So, okay, there's an elephant in the room.
Very big elephant.
There's a very big elephant in the room, and it is
Halloween.
And it is
tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. And look, we got a ton of news. But you can't just gloss over. You just can't gloss this thing over tomorrow. So, I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this, just a little bit, because you may be wondering, because not everybody knows, like, all the details from Halloween, how it all started, and all this stuff. So, what we did was we went to the source, which was Britannica.com. Remember the encyclopedia people? We went to Britannica to find out a little bit of stuff. So I wanted to give you a little update. Don't formulate any opinion on what you think my opinion is going to be, but listen to what Britannica says about how it all started. On the day corresponding to November 1st, on Contemporary, not October 31st, November 1st, right, is when it began they believe that it began. It was considered to be the beginning of the winter period when the herds were returned from the pasture back into the, back from the farms, right? And it was commonly held belief that on the eve of Samhain, now which is a festival. It's a festival of Samhain. So this is like an Irish Celtic deal, right? So we're going all the way back. We're going back to the motherland, right? Right? On the eve of Samhain, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead blurred, and the spirits would roam the earth. Now, keep in mind, this is very pagan, folks. This is obviously not a Christian holiday, which is what we're talking about today. And their belief was that the souls of those who have died were believed to return to visit their old homes, and those who had died during the year were believed to journey to the other world. So, back and forth traffic on this particular day. People would set bonfires on hilltops, relighting the fires for the winter and to frighten away evil spirits. Like I said, very pagan festival and ritual. Sometimes they even wore masks and other disguises to avoid being recognized by the ghosts that they thought to be present, which we know in ghosts were probably more than likely evil spirits, right? Because we know that the demonic world, as Christians, we know very well that the demonic realm is very much present on the earth. And but in any event, they thought, ghosts were ghosts. And it was in those ways that the beings such as witches and hobgoblins and fairies and demons came to be associated with that day. And so that is how this particular day celebration, if you will, began. It's not really a celebration, though, but that's how this day, Halloween, crept in to become what it has become today. Pope Boniface IV originally established what would become All Saints' Day. And that was in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III dedicated a chapel in St. Peter's on November 1st to honor all saints, and that day was kept forevermore in an effort to kind of reclaim the pagan holiday, if you will. And so that's where you get it from, right? And there's even some things like, putting food out in front of your home to kind of appease the evil spirits, sort of like some kind of offering and such. So that's where all the trick-or-treat candy stuff comes from, and it just kind of morphed into stuff for your kids. So that's where it's from, right? And so the question now becomes, all right, seeing what it's turned into, is do we as Christians participate in this? Is it okay for our kids, or is it something that we should shy away from? Now, before we get to the authority on this day, which is my daughter Adele, did you know you're the authority on this day?
I had no idea.
Well, now you do. So before we get to her, there are three camps. There are three camps on this particular day. There are the ones that say, have nothing to do with the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but in fact expose them. In fact, that's the verse that we use to make abortion evident to the people. We are uncovering what's happening behind closed doors. We're uncovering what's happening with abortion pill legislation, and it's mailing across state lines into states. This is the scripture that we use for our pro-life work that we do at First Choice Pregnancy Services, which, by the way, failed to mention, is the outreach ministry of this broadcast. And so, or the other way around, this broadcast is the outreach ministry of First Choice Pregnancy Services, which is one of the model crisis pregnancy centers in the nation. And so this is the scripture that we use to make evident to the world what's happening when an abortion is performed, right? That we're exposing the unfruitful deeds of darkness. So there's one camp that says, have nothing to do with it. Nothing. That means, you folks with kids, tough. Go, you're going to be inside today praying and fasting, which is not a bad idea. Then there's the other camp on the other side, which says, no, the Bible says that one day is like any other day. If one person honors one day above than any other day, and of course some would argue that has to do with what day you go to church, but the bottom line is all days are the same. Let every man be true to himself. Who are you to judge? Right? So that's the other camp. It's like, what? It's just a day. It's far removed from centuries ago pagan rituals and such. It has nothing to do with that. And, my kids' friends are going out there. It has nothing to do with it. Don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. Then you have the middle position, which is, okay, it's an evil day. You can't escape the history of the day. Can't escape it. And there are still evil practices by witches and satanic cults and that sort of thing that really, this is their day. It's like, this is the day for those things to occur. It's like a high day for the evil empire, if you will. And, however, this middle stance takes the opinion that as long as you keep that in mind, how evil it is, right, you can separate yourself from the fact of what it is from the enjoyment of, trick-or-treating and being a part of that, so long as you understand that there are some inherent dangers in this day, and it comes in all forms. Not only, we never forget where this day comes from, obviously, but we also keep in mind that, there's some other things that can typically happen that are somewhat dangerous on Halloween. Sometimes, candy that's been tainted by people, right? I mean, we've heard of that,
very
right?
Big issue.
And, the other thing is, you don't necessarily want your children roaming with other children unsupervised through neighborhoods at night. I mean, just thinking about that is not, this would be like a criminal's paradise. Great, children are coming to my door, no parents. That we don't want that. But as long as, right, this middle camp view believes that as long as your child is, mature enough, right?
Yes.
That, it's okay. So here's my question to you today. We're going to open up our telephone lines, 650-5588, 650-KKVV, if you'd like to call in. And that's 702, by the way, 702-650-5588. If you have an opinion on Halloween and how you and your family are going to be celebrating it, I will say this. I don't know. We'll go to Adele, because Adele is the authority on Halloween.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yes, I very much am.
So first things first. Are you going trick-or-treating?
I am going trick-or-treating.
She is going trick-or-treating. And as the host of your show, I'm her dad. So, yes, I take the middle position, the middle road. What would you say to parents, Christian parents, who have a concern about whether to let little Johnny or little Susie go on Halloween trick-or-treating?
Well, I would say make sure that your child is mature enough to where they can also separate in their minds like the practices of this holiday and, just casually going out trick-or-treating. Make sure that they are mature enough to, be safe and not just trust a random, person and to not enter the person's home and to not be stupid on this holiday because they're out on their own or with their friends. And I'd say also watch out for the friends too, because you don't see those friends every day like the child might, and they could be influencing your child in the wrong or right way. But you need to know that before you let your child go off with them or entrust them into the care of somebody that you yourself trust.
Or go yourself.
Yes, I'd suggest that is the best option.
So you're shepherding your kid and maybe your friends' kids, as they go from door to door, keeping an eye on them, making sure everything is good. And so, but what if the sage? My daughter is the sage. What if you have a child who is maybe they're not so mature? What if they're easily influenced by friends that are questionable? I mean, is it just this? I guess you would put a high standard on this maturity level if they're not so mature. And in other words, if you had kids, would you think that there could be children that probably not a good idea to let them go out, especially unsupervised or with their friends unsupervised in events? I mean, what would you think?
Well, I would at least I should be able to decipher whether my kid is easily influenced, and if not, I would ask them about their friends, like help me get to know them even without meeting them, and just ask them about the people. And I've lived long enough to be around my kid and seen them grow up and should know how easily influenced they are, and whether or not they can make smart choices like the parent have taught them to.
Yeah. That's
But,
wow.
yeah.
That's from my 14-year-old daughter, by the way. Well, I agree with you. And the other thing is, too, we are called to be a light. Doesn't matter what day it is. Doesn't matter what the event is. We are constantly being called to be a reminder. Separating ourselves, yes, darkness from light. But we can do that in any circumstance that we find ourselves in, right? And so, I'm pleased to know, I was talking to Adele earlier about this, that she's trying to even one of the girls that you're going with, you said is a Christian, actually.
Yes, she is.
So just hanging tight with your brothers and sisters in Christ, and keeping in mind of what the day is all about, and some protocols. It is the opinion of the host of your show, does not represent the opinion of the staff of KKBV, First Choice Pregnancy Services, or any affiliated broadcast here on. But if you're going to do it, right, be careful. But yeah, there's certainly things that we don't want anything we do to do with, I think if we're cautious and our children are mature enough, and if they're in good company. I think this is not something that we need to be concerned about as much. A modicum of concern, obviously, because of the day and the events of going door to door in people's houses and knocking on doors. But apart from that, even your own pastor, the youth pastor at the church where you attend, addressed this particular day and was of the somewhat similar opinion as me as well. So and. Of course, that's Pastor Klein, whom we absolutely love, Pastor Danny Klein. So, youth pastor at Trinity Life Center. So, we give a little shout out to Trinity Life Center, right there in the heart of Las Vegas. So, if you have a youth that needs to go to church on Wednesday nights, because that's when your youth services is at 6:30.
6:30 to 8.
6:30 to 8. You want to hang out with some kids and get some good teaching and get the fundamentals straight. And while you're doing that, the adults go into another section and we do our own thing. And so, yeah, it's a good place. Trinity Life Center, 1000 East St. Louis Avenue. Just giving them a shout out just because we love them.
Yeah.
And that's that. So, all right. So we have a lot of stuff in the news. First of all, oh my goodness. We'll do this story first. Planned Parenthood, obviously in the news again. They are fighting to keep secret abortions legal in the state of Nevada for Nevada teens. And as you know, a few months ago, we were able, I say the pro-life movement and their lawyers were able to win a victory in the Nevada Supreme Court and in the Court of Appeals that dropped this federal lawsuit that was put by an injunction placed by Planned Parenthood's lawyers that stopped parental notification for abortion. So in other words, if you have a 14, 15, 16-year-old daughter that has, gotten pregnant and some people whom you don't know were trying to whisk her away to have an abortion, Planned Parenthood blocked notification for the parents. In other words, this little daughter of yours, 14, 15, 16-year-old, get pregnant, she can go and wander off, have an abortion surgery, and you would not know anything about it until after the abortion is performed. That's called parental notification. It became a law back in 1985, but Planned Parenthood blocked it and got an injunction against it. Why? Because they want to be able to provide abortions for teens. And adolescents. They just want to be able to do that, so they blocked it. And just recently, about 6 months ago, the Nevada Supreme Court the Court of Appeals ruled that that law was stricken down. It was unconstitutional. Parents have a right to know about surgery for their children. That's why the law was put in place to begin with in '85. And so you would think that would be it. You would think, hooray for parents. Parents now know if little Susie, maybe she gets pregnant, somehow made a mistake. That's okay. Your grandchild is not at risk. Right? Hooray. We've won. Not so fast. Planned Parenthood now seeks another injunction against this removal of their previous injunction. So they're continuing to fight, Planned Parenthood, continuing to fight to have secret abortions for Nevada teens in our state, which is crazy, which is absolutely crazy. So just so you know, Just so you know, so you understand. You think, well, Planned Parenthood, it's just this agency that's just trying to do the best for teenage. No, they want to circumvent, mom and dad, your parental rights to know what happens to your kid. Not only that, look, if your child was to get, for example, in school, wanted to get an aspirin, they have to notify you before they give you, your daughter or your son or anyone, your child, medication of any type. Medication. But Planned Parenthood, forget medication. They want to scoot your daughter into an abortion facility to allow them to have an abortion. This is surgery. Surgery which could be life-changing. Sadly, some girls do not survive abortion surgery. How frightening would it be if you were the parent and you get a phone call from the morgue? Your daughter is dead. Why is my daughter dead? Well, she had abortion surgery, perforated her uterus. She bled to death. By the time they got her to a hospital, she was dead. Why didn't anyone inform me? Well, because we don't have a legal responsibility to do that. Because there's an injunction filed against this parental notification. And that's the insanity of what's happening in our state. That's the insanity of Planned Parenthood. This is what they want, and this is why you have to fight, folks. This is why you continue to help support organizations like Nevada Right to Life, because they're actively fighting on the legislative end of this to defeat the insanity of people who want to take advantage of your children. Look, that's why Las Vegas and Nevada is an abortion haven for men who sexually abuse young girls, because they know that they can get that young girl into our state, have an abortion, and no one will ever know. And that's how crazy it is. Is this the type of state we want to live in? Of course not. Obviously not. Parents have rights. Now, if your daughter's 21 years old, yeah, okay, great. There's nothing you can do about it. But listen, while my daughter is in my home, I have a right to know what's happening to her. And so there you go. So Planned Parenthood, once again, fighting to make to keep these secret abortions legal. And it's crazy that judges would allow this. It's just crazy. Can you imagine? Imagine that a judge says, "Yeah, no, this is good. This is good for I don't understand how this is good." It makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Maybe I should run for judge. Do you think I'd be a good judge?
Yeah.
You think so? Maybe? Yeah. Possibly?
Possibly.
Well, I have no legal background, so I don't. So, in a related story, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, under the Trump administration, is terminating rules and programs that violate the Hyde Amendment, which the Hyde Amendment, if you recall, prohibits the use of federal taxpayer dollars for abortions, right? So here's what's been happening. Here's the problem. During the Biden administration, right, we were getting all of these undocumented, they're illegal aliens that are crossing over the border. But what was happening was that a lot of times a lot of the women that were coming across the border, right, in the millions, folks, a lot of times these girls, unfortunately, were being raped by the coyotes, the people from Mexico that were trafficking them across state lines. How do you know this to be a fact, Ken? Because we've seen these young ladies at our clinic, pregnant, right? And they would tell us what would happen. So we have the horror stories. We know this firsthand. So under the Biden administration, what they were doing was, if the person coming across the border was a minor or a child, right, and this child happened to be pregnant, well, guess what they were doing? They would then usher this little girl into a facility where she would be able to obtain an abortion, right? And who decides whether she needs the abortion or not? Well, whoever it is that grabs her in the government, and decides that she actually needs this done to her. And the sad reality of this is, not only are a lot of these kids separated from their parents. In other words, parents remain in Mexico. They send their kids ahead, hoping for a better future in the United States. Whatever their conception was of allowing their child to leave their home and travel to the United States and try and get across the border. The sad reality is that the United States government was then paying for the abortions of these girls. And this was a direct violation of our own law. Which, for example, the Hyde Amendment prohibits the use, obviously, of taxpayer dollars for abortions. And the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, that's a division of Health and Human Services that deals with unaccompanied children that they've come across crossing the border. The Biden administration issued a requirement that ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, provide these children with access to medical care, including transportation across state lines if necessary, which would include access to medical specialists, family planning services, and medical services requiring heightened ORR involvement. But the key is the family planning services. So the little girl comes across the border. They find out that she's pregnant, right? Then, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. Say, for example, Texas, who has pro-life laws, we can't have the abortion there. So then they will move this young lady across state lines into a state where, like Nevada, she can obtain this abortion, and problem solved. Well, under the Trump administration, the Justice Department, Office of Legal Counsel, concluded that the Biden-era rule allowing this to occur was a violation of the Hyde Amendment, since it required taxpayer dollars to be used to transport children across state lines for abortions, right? President Biden argued, right, that paying to transport children across state lines for abortion was not the same as directly paying for the abortion themselves. So this is what's just insanity. Right? So we're going to go ahead and we'll fly you there. We're going to drive, however we're going to get this young lady who's pregnant to a state that can perform the abortion. We're going to fly her there. We're going to provide transportation. We're not going to pay for the abortion because we'll be violating the Hyde Amendment, but we're just going to get her there. And then maybe let the state use their own funds to fund the abortion, right? So the Supreme Court ruled that this little linguistic gymnastic thing that the Biden administration was doing was absolutely unconstitutional, and furthermore, back in 1993. Now this is prior to the Biden administration. There was a change in the amendment's language from perform to the monies. You could not use money to perform abortions, right? They changed it to money to funds expended for any abortion. So this was already illegal. Expended means, spent for the purpose of obtaining an abortion. And the Supreme Court ruled that, guess what? You cannot do this. This is illegal. And under the Trump administration, Department of Justice, this is now going to end. Said Mary Zock, director for the Center of Human Dignity at Family Research Council. She said, the Biden's administration's lone focus seems to have been advancing the culture of death. This included using hard-earned American taxpayer dollars to pay for abortions for unaccompanied minor children. When people talk about immigration, they rarely recognize that for many minor girls, open borders result in horrific abuse at the hands of human traffickers. And under the Biden administration, this abuse was covered up with taxpayer-funded abortions. And listen, folks, this is a reality. As I've mentioned to you before, we've had pregnant women that have crossed the border illegally end up at First Choice Pregnancy Services. We are dealing with the aftermath of this policy firsthand. And thankfully, under this administration, this travesty of ending human life in the womb for women, for minors, especially for children, is going to end. And I don't care how you feel about the Trump administration. As far as I'm concerned, this is a plus. This is an absolute plus. My goodness, having children is tough, But killing the children of children is not the answer. It's just simply not the answer, and it's going to end. And I'm very, very, very grateful for that. All right, I'm going to take a moment. If you guys would like to give us a call, you can. It's Halloween, All Saints Day. All Saints Day Eve. Well, yeah, no, it's tomorrow, so it's All Saints Day Eve, kind of. Hallows Day Eve. That's the hallow is made holy, to make holy. So it's Halloween or Hallows Day Eve. Anyway, our telephone lines are open. 702-650-5588, 702-650-KKVV if you'd like to be a part of the broadcast. And you're listening to Champions for Life broadcast, which is an outreach ministry of First Choice Pregnancy Services, one of the premier crisis pregnancy centers, pregnancy help centers in the state. And I want to mention to you too, by the way, just how vital our clinic is. Not only do we provide free pregnancy tests and free sonograms via our doctors and nurses that are stationed at our clinic for anyone who walks through the door, for anyone. We also provide, we're the only clinic in the state of Nevada, the only clinic that provides abortion pill reversals. I'm going to say that again. First Choice Pregnancy Services is the only clinic in the state of Nevada that provides abortion pill reversals. So for those of you ladies who have mistakenly or unknowingly or were coerced in taking the abortion pill, it can be reversed. And amazingly, I have seen the children from our center that are alive and well today because of this procedure that we can supply to these women. So, maybe that's you today. Give First Choice a call and say, hey, listen, I think I've taken this pill, or I don't know how, something's wrong, something's not right. Give them a call. Their number, 702-294-CARE. That's 294-2273. First Choice Pregnancy Services. All of the services at First Choice are free. Absolutely free. Been in business 20 years, have never charged not a dime to one client that has walked through those doors. Not a penny. And we're going to continue to do that very same thing. In fact, speaking of pennies, should have mentioned this earlier. We are having our First Choice Pregnancy Services, our gala, coming up, Unmasking the Silence, coming up November 7th. So if you would like more information about First Choice and say, hey, listen, I would love to sit in a gala and find out what it's about, find out more, how I can help and be a part, maybe be an advocate for First Choice, or maybe even volunteer at the center, including we need medical professionals. Our dream is to open up another clinic, a second First Choice Pregnancy Services, and replicate this model of a crisis pregnancy center throughout the state and ultimately throughout the nation. That is our dream, and this gala will help us do it. And if you're in the medical profession, please help us get on the ground floor for our next facility. It is our dream, our prayer, our heartbeat to open up another clinic. Because listen, in a city of 2 million people, 2 crisis pregnancy centers is not enough to meet the needs of all the women in our city. It's just not enough. We are woefully underserved. We desperately, desperately need another First Choice Pregnancy Services center here in our city. Desperately. And you can help be a part of that. Now, you say, Kenny, how do I do that? November 7th. Mark your calendar. November 7th. We are going to have not one, but 2 galas. 2 galas. You can come at the 12 o'clock gala for lunch. We are going to serve you lunch. And this will be at the Canyon Gate Country Club, and it'll be at 12 noon. We'll serve you lunch. We'll keep you for a couple of hours. Our keynote speaker is going to be Cal Zastro, and that's the noon event. And then again at night, at the 7 p.m., we're going to do it all again for you folks that like to come in the evening and have dinner. We're going to do, and yours truly. I know I will be at the dinner. I may even also be at the lunch, trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to attend that or not, but I'm definitely going to be at the evening one so that you can meet the host of your show. I'd love to meet you. And again, that's going to be November 7th. It's coming up, folks. It's coming up. Mark your calendar. Say, Kenny, how do I get a ticket? Well, this is how you do it. Log into our website. Log into our website. It's FCPS, stands for First Choice Pregnancy Services, FCPSchampions.org. FCPSchampions.org. Click events, and you're going to see all the different ways, all your different levels of sponsorship. The bottom line, the cheapest way you can get in, $150 a plate. Kenny, it's $150. Yes, I know, but it's a fundraiser, folks. Our dream and goal is to get another clinic. We need help in order to do it. So if you have friends with means, or if you sit on a board of a business, right? And we're coming up on the end of the year, by the way. So if you want to make an end of the year donation to First Choice so that we can open up another clinic, I'm telling you, folks, listen, look, 45,000 children, over now, 45,000 children in Nevada have been saved. They're alive today. They are breathing today because First Choice Pregnancy Services was there to help their mothers. They're alive today because of our services. We want to open up another one, just replicate exactly what we're doing. We need more nurses. We need more sonogram machines. We need more staff, administrative staff and nurses. We need doctors. We need everything, right? And we need a building. And we have a heart, we have a desire, we have a focus of where we want to put it, but we need your help. So if you want to be a part of this, and I urge you, I know it's $150 a plate, but listen, it's crucial to what we want to do. If question 6 passes, Lord forbid, not this coming election cycle, but in a year from now, if question 6 passes, there will be abortions in our state through all 9 months. Through all 9 months. Parental notification will be wiped away. Parental consent is already gone in our state. Parents can't stop it from abortion. But parental notification will be gone too. If it all goes away, right? Las Vegas and the state of Nevada will be the abortion capital of the United States. And if that happens, we will desperately need more First Choice Pregnancy Service centers in Las Vegas to handle the flood. It's already happening now, but the flood of women that are going to be coming to our state to have an abortion. We need another center just like First Choice. So I urge you, November 7th, write this number down, stick it on your refrigerator, and if you can't log into our website, if you log in, it's fcpschampions.org, click events, and you'll see it there, and just register right there. Or you can give them a call and say, look, I want to come to the noon event, or I'd like to come to the, at noon or at 7 p.m., the evening event. Either way, we're going to feed you. And you're going to hear from Cal Zastro. Cal, been a pastor, got a ton of kids, loves the Lord, been battling for life for decades. Recently pardoned by the Trump administration because he was in prison during the Biden administration for violating the FACE Act, the Freedom to Access Clinic Entrances. And they got him for that. They were going to, listen, if Trump had not won, he'd still be in prison, and he would be in prison for decades. They were going to put Cal as a leader in the pro-life movement, Pastor Cal Zastro. They were going to put him away for decades, right, in prison, right? President Trump said, no, pardoning him. Pardon him, Chet, and about a dozen others. And that's our keynote speaker. And you want to hear from him, hear his heart. That's going to be on November 7th at the Canyon Gate Country Club. Again, 12 p.m., 7 p.m. Give First Choice a call. Get your tickets. The number, 702-294-CARE. That's 702-294-2273. And say, I need a ticket. Me and my wife, we need tickets. Or I sit on the board of a major corporation. We want to fund a nonprofit clinic just like yours. Because you can do that. You can make it. Our clinic is a nonprofit organization. And every dime that you give is completely tax deductible. How beautiful. Listen, I often tell people, Adele, I tell people, if you bless First Choice by helping these mothers have their children, right? We're talking about baby showers. We're talking about diapers. Sometimes we're talking about housing for these moms, right? If you help us help them, you know what? God is going to bless your business. And if God doesn't bless your business, Adele is going to give you the difference in all the money that you didn't earn for that fiscal year.
I'm not too sure about that last part.
No, God is going to bless your business. We're not even worried about that. Because you know why? Because these children are close to the heart of the Lord. You really are giving, not just to us, you're giving literally to the Lord as we help, as we spread the gospel through action and intervention for these young ladies. that are coming desperate. Every single day they come into our clinic desperate with no answers, looking for help. And you and your corporation can be a part of it. Amen?
Amen.
So if you want to, give them a call. The number, again, 702-294-CARE. That's 294-2273. And say, look, November 7th, you know what I did? I took the whole day off. I took the whole day off just so that I could attend this event because it's that important. And I want to hear Cal Zastrow speak. I want to find out where, I want to hear from him. And it's going to be awesome. It's just going to be awesome. And you're going to hear some great testimonies. Probably even going to get to meet, I would bet, maybe a mom or two that's whose child has been saved from abortion. In fact, we had, one of our abortion reversals from the pill, that mom herself was a nurse. Can you believe it? She was a trauma nurse. She was a trauma nurse, came into First Choice and said, wait a minute, I took this abortion pill. I'm a nurse. I wasn't thinking what I was doing. Can I do anything to reverse this? Yes, we can. Good thing we got you here. And would you believe this nurse, we rushed her into the hospital, gave her, basically it's a specific injection to counter the effects of the pill. She's now got a bouncing little baby girl. And
That's
you know
amazing.
what's happened now? She's now gone before she's now testified in Congress, the United States. We flew her to speak for Nevada Right to Life in favor of bills that would address the dispensing of this abortion drug throughout the United States, like what's happening. So can you imagine? Because of you, we're able, through this young lady, this trauma nurse, who now has a bouncing baby, beautiful blonde-haired little girl. She's just gorgeous. Now is sat before Congress testifying that, you know what? As a medical professional, we need to look at what this drug is doing to our young ladies before we make it, before we continue to dispense this drug throughout the United States. And that's just from one young lady that we've helped. I mean, isn't that awesome?
That is awesome.
I mean, it's completely awesome. And so hopefully you will be able to meet at least maybe one. I think possibly this particular nurse will be there. I hope she is. But anyway, you're going to get more information. It's going to be awesome. November 7th. Circle that day on your calendar and give First Choice a call and say, hey, I want to be a part of this gala. Get more information. All right. Now, in the time remaining, my goodness. There's been more. I know. This is such a heavy topic. We talk about abortion and life issues because it's important, right? How wonderful would it be if there was no need, Adele, for First Choice?
Mm-hmm.
If there was no need to, counter some of the craziness that's coming out of Washington D.C.,
Yeah.
where we could talk about stuff like, what we're going to do for Christmas and whether we're going to have a Christmas tree or who's going to decorate it again, that type of stuff. Presents, what we want but we don't have time for that. You know why? Because the Food and Drug Administration has now authorized a generic version of mifepristone and has started to dispense it. And mifepristone, in case you don't know, is the abortion pill, right? It's a two-part pill. There's a mifepristone, and then there's the accompanying pill, Cytotec. I forget what the other name of it is, but these two pills, you take one to kill the baby. The Cytotec then expels the baby, causes contractions. Now you expel a dead baby. So it's a two-part drug, right? Well, the Food and Drug Administration decided to approve a new generic version of the abortion drug mifepristone, right? During the Trump administration. So now House conservatives and 51 Republican senators are demanding that the FDA top officials that approve this are fired. They're demanding it. They wrote a letter, said, we want them fired. We want them fired. Now, this pill, just so that you know, now accounts for almost 2/3 of all abortions that are done in the United States now. For those of you who think that abortions have gone down since Roe v. Wade has fallen, you are wrong. Because of the abortion pill, the numbers of abortions in the United States have gone up, not down, but up, largely in part due to mifepristone and now this generic drug that's now going to be made available. And of course now what's going to happen is the problem with making this drug available on a massive scale is that there's no supervision when you take the drug. In other words, you're given the drug, and there's no doctor to watch and see if there's any kind of problem. If there's an ectopic pregnancy, this is where the baby is developing in the fallopian tube, and the woman takes the abortion pill, she is risking her life. Now, is there a sonogram done when folks take the abortion pill? No. There's no, and when the woman starts to have the dead child, presumably at home, if she's hemorrhaging, if there's infection, if there's sepsis, is there anyone there to care for her? No. And the sad reality is over 10%, actually it's 11% of women that take the abortion drug right now, today, end up in the emergency room. 11% end up in the emergency room at a hospital after taking the abortion drug. And now the FDA has now... So now the Republican senators said that they need to be fired. They need to be fired for producing this drug and making it available. Said Representative Mark Harris, a North Carolina Republican. He led the group of House conservatives in the letter to Health and Human Services, Robert Kennedy, urging him to target specific FDA leaders in any upcoming layoffs due to the shutdown, right? It's clear, he says, that rogue actors within the FDA are working to undermine both the sanctity of life and the administration's commitment to protecting it. For this reason, we respectfully urge that you consider the director of the Office of Generic Drugs, the director of the Center of Drug Evaluation and Research, and other bureaucrats responsible for this reckless decision as part of your reduction in force. In other words, fire them. Get them, fire them. Look, we got to shut down, get rid. Look, if they're going to do this, this is totally, the sad reality is, on mifepristone, there's never been a nationwide study on the effects of the repercussions of sending this drug throughout all 50 states. There's never been a study to show what the ramifications of this drug are, right? There's no study that's showing, well, how many women have died from it? How many women, have now ended up in, we know that about 11% from what we know. Could be higher. We're not really sure, but we know 11%. No one has done a study on this. The Food and Drug Administration has not done a study. They just said, let's just make it available. And it's irresponsible. Irresponsible. The Biden administration, they rolled back safeguards, common sense things like in-person doctor visits and follow-up care to women who take this abortion drug. And instead, they've allowed this wholesale mail-order distribution without verifying the buyers, without verifying the purpose for purchasing. In other words, what if I bought, a case of 1,000 of these packs of pills? I could buy them. No one would care. They'll just show up at my door. I could do whatever I want with them. I could sell them if I wanted, right? This type of recklessness empowers abusers and human traffickers who want to make abortion accessible to their victims. Susan B. Anthony, pro-life American president Marjorie Dannenfelser condemned the approval as unconscionable, saying in a statement that this is a reckless decision by the FDA to expand the availability of abortion drugs. These dangerous drugs take the lives of unborn children, places women and underage girls at serious risk, empowering abusers, and trample the pro-life laws enacted by states across the nation. And of course, the senators also mentioned in their letter, it says, under current FDA regulations, these drugs, talking about mifepristone, now the generic version, these drugs can be obtained via mail order without any consultation with a medical professional and without any confirmation about who is purchasing them or for what purpose. These policies have enabled abortion pills to be obtained by abusers, human traffickers, and even minors. And they said unrestricted access to abortion pills is systematically undermining states' rights and violating pro-life state laws. Every month, thousands of abortion drugs are shipped into states that have otherwise limited access to abortion after the Dobbs decision, degrading pro-life laws at the state level and across the country. Said Senator Josh Hawley, who's a Republican out of Missouri, who signed a letter, this letter that all of them signed, he signed it, he wrote separately, he said, the decision appears to ignore the science while advancing a highly questionable ideological agenda. And he added that the FDA has promised to do a top-to-bottom safety review of the chemical abortion drug, but instead they've just green-lighted new versions of it for distribution. I've lost confidence in the leadership at the Food and Drug Administration. So the anus is now going to be on Kennedy to find out, what he's going to do about it. Obviously they want people fired for it. I can't blame them. You cannot blame them. These drugs are deadly. And it's even worse if they end up in the hands of perpetrators, people who are human traffickers, to hide their crimes, especially against minors. I mean, it's just unconscionable that you could have just obtained this prescription drug, doesn't matter who you are. Can you imagine? We have pharmacies for a reason, Adele. Mm-hmm. Like if I wanted to go get some prescription drug, there's a reason it's prescription. Because there's a doctor that's going to say, well, okay, there's a reason that you need this to combat this. So so you have to go to the pharmacy and then you have to go pick it up. Mm. But not with this, not with the abortion drug. You can just have it mailed to you. And if there's a generic version, Lord knows, the access is ridiculous. So what can you do? Folks, you can pray. And you can take part in your election. Because we're coming up on an election cycle here pretty soon, and a few more days next week, in fact, November 4th. So pay attention. Know who you're voting for. Know where they stand on these issues. Look, we do not want to become a city where it's the abortion capital of the United States. We just don't. Mm-hmm. We just don't. And you can be a part of it. Question 6, again, is going to be coming up, not this year, but next. And at our next, in a year. And if we don't defeat it, Las Vegas is very much in danger of becoming, in Nevada, the state of Nevada, the abortion capital of the United States. It's just frightening, simply frightening. And, as a guy with kids, I got kids. I got one of them here. I want children to be able to grow up safely, and I don't have to worry about perpetrators, right, and criminal activity. And organizations like Planned Parenthood are undermining my authority as a parent, right? We want to protect our children, right? Yeah. Right? Oh, my goodness. So, so guess what?
What?
So you're gonna go Halloween trick-or-treating with friends.
Yes, but especially on this day, I'm very careful.
You're gonna be, well, I know you are. I'm not completely know that you're gonna be fine. Mm. So... But again, for those of you that are going out for trick-or-treating tonight, just remember what this day is about, but still be that light. You can always be that light for the Lord, it doesn't matter what day it is, right? You say, you know what? I know this is craziness, but I do love the Lord. And you know what? I can still traffic through this neighborhood and still be the light of Christ in the midst of all this nonsense. And be a witness to your friends and your family that are going out there. Mm-hmm. Parents, be safe. Supervise when you can. You're going to be somebody. Our producer's eating candy behind the screen. Did you see that? It's what? Oh no, it was ice. All right, I'm sorry.
Oh. Wow.
I thought she was sneaking some Halloween treats right there. No, that's not the case. No, she's doing ice. But are you going Halloween treating? Are you going? She said, nope. She said, not me. But yeah, a lot of churches have like trunk or treat events and things like that. And I mean, I'm sure that if you wanted something that is on the safe side of the fence, something you don't have to worry about, see what your church is doing for trunk or treat events and that type of thing. There's plenty out there where you can have fellowship with your family and friends and other believers. But if not, if you're going out trick or treating, just be safe out there. Peruse your candy carefully.
Very much so. Take slow bites. Look at it before you even
Yeah, just don't
like,
throw it in there. And well, I got 5 different things in there. No, don't do that.
Snickers are usually not that color. Then just don't eat the Snickers.
Yeah,
Snickers
just be careful.
It's nasty.
It's going to be all right. You'll be fine.
absolutely.
You're going to have a good time. So anyway, well, folks, look here. We've come to the end of the broadcast. If you have questions about anything that you've heard, you can contact First Choice Pregnancy Services and talk to Deborah, whom we love. She's the executive director, First Choice Pregnancy Services. Take a tour of the facility, be a part, attend the gala, and look us up on the web, fcpschampions.org. Folks, it's the end of the broadcast. God bless you, and remember, you can be a champion for life.
Thanks for joining us for the Champions for Life radio broadcast, the outreach ministry of First Choice Pregnancy Services.
Join us every Thursday at 12:30 on KKVV 1060 AM.
If you or someone you know need help with your pregnancy, or if you wish to visit or support our clinic and radio ministry, please call 702-294-CARE. That's 702-294-2273.
Or visit us at fcpschampions.org. That's fcpschampions.org.
KKVV Las Vegas.